Greetings, everyone, from the dank basement. I'm Paul, your wicked Uncle Squiddy. Hello, YouTube pipe smoking community. Well, if you have been a pipe smoker for any length of time, and if you're an aromatic smoker particularly, chances are you have had the famous Lane 1Q. Now, you will get arguments between pipe smokers as to which is better, the 1Q or the RLP6 or the BCA or the LL7. But Lane 1Q, seems to be kind of a mainstay of Lane aromatics. I myself have a pound jar full of it in my cellar. But when I was on tobaccopipes.com trying to get my Solani aged burley flake, which I did, thank you, Terry, at tobaccopipes.com, we were talking about tinned aromatics and how they age and whether or not it's necessary to buy a tinned aromatic when they're available in bulk. And he suggested that I buy a tin of Lane's 1Q just to try and see if there was a difference between the tin version and the bulk version. And so got a nice little can of it here, 1.7 gram tin, not terribly expensive. It's nicely presented in the tin. It is almost a cake of ribbon cut tobacco. Giving it a whiff, I smell the light vanilla and caramel sort of topping that's on this. Although I've heard people say, it isn't caramel, it's marshmallow. And I heard somebody else say, it's not marshmallow, it's guava mayonnaise. Yeah, no, it's just the Golden Cavendish smells like vanilla. And I don't know what they top it with, but it's nice and it's sweet and it's pleasant. Doesn't burn goopy, burns clean to the bottom of the bowl. It's just a good tobacco. But is it different in the tin than from the bulk? Short answer, slightly. You say, Paul, what do you mean? What do you mean? Be more specific, blind boy. All right, I will be. In the tin, the tobacco is slightly drier than the bulk samples that I have bought from both Pipes and Cigars and SmokingPipes.com. That makes sense. They would make sure to keep the bulk a little more moist. This is ready to smoke right out of the tin, and it's the same. It tastes the same as the bulk version. So since the tinned version is about a little more than twice as expensive as the bulk version, why would you buy it in a tin? Well, I can think of two reasons. Maybe you don't use a lot of it, but you want to keep it around. Again, I do not believe that aromatics tobaccos, I don't believe they improve with age. You know, it's not like when you have a nice vapor or even a nice burley Latakia blend or something, you can age that. And as particularly the Virginias ferment a little bit, they cure a little bit, you're going to get more sweetness, more roundness to the flavor, and a lot of tobaccos really benefit from aging. I get the intuition that aromatics don't. So that's not a reason to buy a tin. But there is another reason, and it's kind of a silly one, but it's a reason that I was confronted with on my last trip. I had brought with me, oddly enough, a Ziploc bag full of the bulk 1Q. And when I got to customs, they're looking through my carry-on bag and they go, whoa, what is this? This ounce bag full of weird-looking leaves that smell like vanilla. And they thought it was some kind of drug. I had to explain that, no, it was just pipe tobacco I had bought por peso by weight. And I told them how much it weighed, 28 grams, which was fine. But they really took a look at it, and they opened the bag, and they ran their fingers through my tobacco. Yeah, I don't know where their fingers have been. I don't know if the guy washed his hands after he took a leak or took a dump or something, you know. And they're pawing through my tobacco. And I thought, you know what? If I had brought a sealed tin of tobacco, this would not be an issue. So that's one. The other one, of course, is storing it for some time down the road. Maybe you don't smoke a lot of Lane 1Q. So you'd want to spend the extra money and get it in the tin. I am happy to report that the tobacco is beautifully presented in the tin, as always with Lane, a nice even ribbon cut. And of course, when you open the tin, you get that wonderful Lane 1Q smell. And it's pretty marvelous. Is it worth the extra money to buy the tin? Maybe not. But if you have, as I said, if you're going to be traveling, it might be a good idea. You want to keep it on a shelf for a long time. That's fine. Oh, I will tell you this, though. If you are keeping it an aromatic that has been heavily topped like this one is, if you're keeping it on the shelf, every once in a while, just flip the tin over. Because what happens is the topping tends to get involved with gravity. And if you store a topped aromatic for a very long time on the shelf, what can happen is that the toppings can sort of fall to the bottom of the tin, and what you end up with is a kind of a goopy, sticky puddle in the bottom of the tin. You don't want that. So every once in a while, just flip your tin upside down, and it will help keep the topping distributed evenly through the tobacco. That's a little trick. I'm not charging for that hint today. It's free. So you guys got heavy-duty weekend plans? We don't, really. It's going to be beautiful. I have a retaining wall that's between my property and my next-door neighbor. Long story short, back in the late 1940s when this house was built, they backfilled the lot to raise the grade. So in other words, the basement, the foundation, everything was built above ground. And then they filled around it. Then they built the wood frame house on top of the cinder block basement where I'm sitting right now. My neighbor's house was built in 1965, and the design called for a walkout basement. So I believe it was the builder of my neighbor's house that erected like a 35-foot long cinder block retaining wall. Well, my neighbor came to me a couple of years ago and says, "What are you going to do about your wall? It ain't my wall. It's actually physically connected to your house, to your foundation. It's not my wall." He goes, "Well, yeah, I don't care about that. What are you going to do about your wall?" And I said, "Nothing. It's your wall." Well, the wall has collapsed because there was not an inch of rebar used to build it. If you've ever done a masonry wall, you know it takes more than just blocks and cement and sand. You really have to have rebar in there, a steel bar, inside the blocks that keeps everything in a line and sturdy. Well, whoever built the wall did not use rebar, which is ridiculous for a retaining wall. So I'm going to have to deal with that this weekend and try to get together with my neighbor. I hope I don't have to talk tough. Well, that's what you want to have to do. Take your next door neighbor to court. You need to fix that wall. It's dangerous. If and it is. If my wife takes a walk in the backyard, she misjudges the edge of the yard, she could drop 5 feet onto all these broken cinder blocks. So something's got to be done. I don't know. We got any expert lawyers watching me? You might want to call me and give me a little free advice yourself. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what's going on with me this weekend, dealing with the next door neighbor, doing spring cleaning, just normal stuff. It's going to be beautiful and sunny and 71, 72 degrees tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Spring has sprung. And how about them Minnesota Twins, y'all? We're ahead of every other team in Major League Baseball by 0.10%. That's impressive.